This video demonstration will cover server variables in PHP. It consists of about 53 lines of code. It is relatively short, there's no database connection. The only file that we'll be creating today is servervariables.php. We will write it such that it validates as XHTML5. Some of the instructions can be seen on the description for this. We'll go through adding these to the code as we move through. The only part of the exercise that we're concerned with is here, writing a PHP that loops through the server variables and creates a table that is similar to this. The end result will look like this file. We will do two examples of writing out an individual server variable, because this will be how you use them in the future. And then we'll do one example with a for loop that lists all of these server variables that you could possibly use in PHP. So let's begin by looking at the code. Let's start with a new one, and we'll begin developing it from scratch. So we'll use PHP, doc type as HTML5, and create that. And we'll begin modifying it from the beginning. We include our opening and closing PHP delimiters. And for this to be XHTML5, it must also validate as an XML document, which means that we need the XML declaration at the top. In PHP, however, we have to write it out using the echo statement. So we'll use an echo statement to write to the browser, and within that echo statement we will put our opening XML declaration. The XML declaration looks like this. The less than question mark XML, and ends with a closing question mark greater than. We set version equal to. We have to escape nested double quotes. We escape nested double quotes by putting a backward slash in front of those double quotes. And then set the encoding the same way. Encoding equals, and between there we'll use UTF-8. In addition to this, I'll add a couple of comments at the top, as you should, to remind yourself later that this file is validating as HTML5. You'll need to use an HTML5 validator to check your code, which we will do at the end. So we've begun this file. The HTML5 doc type tag is already listed for you. Typically, instead of this being in capitals, it's usually in lowercase. So we'll change that from all caps to lowercase. The HTML tag, if we come back to the instructions, you'll see does not meet our requirements for the course for accessibility. If we come back to here, this is our HTML tag that we should be using, and we'll simply replace that, so that now we have our XML namespace listed, our language as English in two different forms, and these serve for accessibility, to solve accessibility issues. In between the opening and closing head tag, again, we'll make a small change, changing the meta tag to simply list UTF-8 as our character set. The title of this we'll call server variables. And then we come down to the body of our document. Let's start by listing a heading. In that heading, we'll simply add server variables again. I'll add some comments here. Again, this is mostly for you later. To get an individual server variable, it would look like the following. We'll put them inside of a paragraph tag, open and close paragraph. We'll start with doing HTTP host, and we'll also do remote host. After that, I'll simply format it so that it's bolded. And in between those strong tags, I will use the PHP echo statement to write out an individual server variable. We'll do this twice. We use $_server to access them. And then we'll use the value that we wrote on the right, _server HTTP host, to list it out. On the next one, we'll do the same thing. But this time, remote host. Lastly, I'll put a break after this one so that these two appear on separate lines. Now that we've done a little bit, let's go ahead and save this. I'm going to put it out on the server. If I choose the correct folder. Now let's create a new folder here. And we're creating server variables.php. So we save that out. Look for our folder. There it is. Come back to our browser. And navigate using the full URL to that file. Here we have server variables as our H1, and then we have the two listed out using $_server to access them. The next part is looping through to create a table that lists all of the remaining server variables. So after this paragraph tag, again, I'll add a line of comments. At this point, we're going to do some HTML. I'm going to set the style here. So style equals, let's do width of 500 pixels, add padding of 1 pixel, margin of 1 pixel, border of 0 pixel, and then add a title to describe the table, and just put in listing of server variables. Since we opened that table tag, we want to go ahead and close it so that we have our matching tags. Inside of here, we're going to specify the table head, the table foot, and the table body in those sections. Inside of the T head, we'll put a table row, and inside of the table row, we'll use TH tags or table head tags. Those table head tags must be used inside of the T head tag. The TH must be used inside of the T head. The TDs won't display properly. In the first one, we're just going to put key. We'll do a second TH, and in this one, we're going to do value. So if we go ahead and save that and refresh this, you'll see these appearing. Our border is 0, which is why you don't see an outline. So let's go ahead and change that and add a style inside of the TH tag and put border : 1 pixel space solid space black. And let's copy that to the other one. Save it. And refresh this. So now we have an outline around those. We're done with the table head. Let's go ahead and do the table footer. Again, we need to put in a table row inside of there. This time, we only use a TD or table data cell. Inside of there, I'll use an emphasis tag, and I'll write out a listing of server variables. I'll save that, come back here and refresh. So now I have this outlined, and I've got a listing of server variables listed. You'll notice that things adjusted there though, which is alright for now. And our table body. So essentially, at this point, we're ready to start some PHP. And what we want to do is, for every server variable, we want a row. So our TR tag is going to be nested inside of a for each loop. So we'll do a for each, and we'll go ahead and outline that. And the for each is going to be $_server as key arrow with an equal sign value. And what that's going to do is, server is an array of values, name equal value pairs or key equal value pairs. And so we're going to write out the key and value each time through the loop. So we're going to end our PHP here and begin our PHP again here. That allows us in this space to write some HTML, which is where I'm going to put our TR tags. So now, inside of our for each loop, we have a no open and close TR. So every time, for every occurrence of a server variable, there will be a new row. I'll put 2 table data cells inside of there once again. And we're going to copy the style from up here and put it into each of these opening TD cells. And inside each of these, we're going to echo out the values from the for each loop. So the first one is going to be $key. The second one is going to be $value. We'll save that, come back here, refresh, and now we have key and value pairs. Scrolling down, here's our table footer. Coming up, this is our table header. All the rest are table body. These are the 2 that we did up above. individually, and you can see that we can take any of these. If we wanted to grab this, we could take this entire piece, copy it, come out here and replace one of these. Save that, and when we refresh this page, now it's writing out the new piece that we pasted in there, the HTTP accept encoded. But that's not actually what I want listed there, so I'm going to change it back to remote host. Save it, and refresh. Server variables are important because we will use them in logging user activity. So things like the IP address of the user, the user agent, things that tell us a little bit about who the user is, and we keep this information mostly for security purposes. So now that we've done this, let's check and make sure that it's HTML5 compliant. I use a tool called Total Validator tool. If you look for an add-on for Firefox called Total Validator, you'll actually happen upon the Total Validator tool, which is a tool that you have to install on your local machine. And so you access it off of your local machine. You type in the URL here of the location. So I created a new folder called server vars, and I'm going to do XHTML5 validation and some accessibility validation, and see what happens when I click. After I've typed that, when I click validate, it will bring up a new page, and it will tell me total errors found, 0, and that's what you want to see every time. If it finds errors with validation or accessibility, they'll be listed here, and then it'll give you an idea of where those problems are, and then you would just need to fix those, come back to your code, and find those problems and fix them. As is, this appears to be complete, and that is a rundown of creating or using server variables in PHP.